You just bought your DJI Pocket 2 and you've started filming out there, but your footage doesn't really look good? Well, this video is about how to achieve some nice cinematic footage with your Pocket 2. If you want to see the settings we use for this amazing shots, watch this video and we'll tell you all the secrets to achieve that. Let's start off with something that if you're a beginner, you may not even thought about it. Sorry. Look at this. Yes, filters. I'm sorry, but in order to achieve a super great cinematic result, you will need them. If you're starting, you still can learn without them, but I'm really sorry if you didn't plan on spending money on this, but you will have to. No filters, no fun. Yes, this sentence is mine and I will register it. Why are the filters so important on this device? Well, because it has a fixed aperture. Keep calm, let me explain this a little bit easier. If you've seen some super production with this device out there of some awesome channels, and I hope you have seen our review by now, it truly has some great shots, I'll have to let you know that it's not all about post-production. There are a few things that you have to master even before filming. Of course, we're talking about camera settings plus extras like this one. Simply put, we do have three king categories, and this applies to every single camera out there. We'll have to play with all three in order to get the look we want. You may have heard about them: ISO, shutter speed, and aperture. First, the aperture. We do know it is fixed, so we can't really do too much on this one. The Pocket 2 has an aperture of f1.8, which, without getting too much into detail, is a pretty decent and wide open aperture which lets a lot of light in. You may have heard me in some previous videos saying that the aperture is just a hole where light gets in. And it is measured in f numbers, and there is indeed some maths behind this, but for now all you have to know is that the lower the f number, the more wide open the hole is, and the more light gets into the sensor. This means, especially at night or low light scenarios, you want to have a really low f number, such as for example this f1.8. But if you're out there filming on a perfect sunny day, with tons of light everywhere reflecting, then it gets complicated because, as I'm saying, this device does have a fixed aperture, meaning we can't really open or close that hole. And this is where these little babies come into the game, because you need something blocking light from getting into the sensor. Otherwise, your whole footage would look just wide overexposed. And ND filters, neutral density filters, are just a glass blocking a light, like sunglasses. Like this awesome project Personal Awesome Eyewear sunglasses with a link on the description. Yes, this must have been the most stupid product placement in history, but filters will allow you to reduce the light. Test it for yourself, please. If you shoot in auto mode on a sunny day, the shutter speed will just rocket up super high. This will give you sometimes bad footage like jello effect or super crispy footage. Summing up, you just won't see this as cinematic as you'd like. And if you just set up the perfect adjustments, you will be blinded by your footage. How bad is this, right? This happens because there is a lot of light entering the sensor. Just too much. If you could close manually that famous hole, this wouldn't be happening, but you just can't. And that's the right exact moment when you have to put this on your camera. Sorry mama, but you'll have to get these things. I've managed during a bunch of years not saying on this channel to buy this or buy that or doing this or that, but I hate to say lately I'm saying this quite a lot. Brands are making things difficult with these limitations. There are a bunch of brands doing filters for the Pocket 2, even DJI is doing some. So you'll see some numbers such as ND4, ND8 and so on, but I have to say you will be mostly interested in ND16 or ND32. Those filters you will be using on a normal sunny day. And the higher the ND number, the more light gets blocked. In terms of quality, of course, the better the ND filters, the less it will affect colors, sharpness and aberrations on your image, for example. So you may want to research a little bit here. Now let's jump directly onto the second category. ISO. As a general rule, you want to keep this as low as possible. Perfect would be if you could have this always at 100, the minimum. Why? Because on digital sensors, the ISO will tell that sensor how bright the output should be and how much digital light it'll have to add onto it. This means if you go higher in ISO, you will add more digital artificial light. What does that mean? Your camera will be adding that unreal light to your image and videos, and in most cases they will get really noisy. You know, with that terrible grain. Because cameras are not perfect, and basically that noise are badly lit pixels. This means, of course, as I said in the beginning of this free masterclass, you should avoid this by maintaining the ISO as low as possible. Hopefully always below 800. Third and last one, the shutter speed. Oh dear, shutter speed. How many lectures are out there talking about mastering the shutter speed? Honestly, it's something pretty easy, but you've got to learn it and you've got to know which shutter speed always to use for a specific reason. For the most cinematic videos you will be filming, and trust me on this, at 24, 25 or 30 frames per second. This will depend on your country, your region or a few other reasons, but this is a good start. Easily explained, the shutter speed numbers such as 150 mean that you're lighting up 1/50th of a second each of those 24 or 25 frames per second. This may sound a bit complicated and it may be easy understood on analog photography, but for now you may have heard the famous sentence, the shutter speed should be double the frame rate. Meaning that if you're shooting at 24 or 25 frames per second, you want to set up the shutter speed at 150 or 160 if you're shooting at 30 frames per second. That will give you that smooth blurry motion effect we know from movies. Remember that, especially if you're new to this, videography is photography in a motion, but with a blurry effect. When passing objects or walking or running, there is a wrong misconception when you start that everything has to be perfectly sharpened and focused when you're shooting a video, but that's wrong, my dear. You want to feel that motion. Summing up, here's what you will probably be using as settings when filming cinematic. ISO 100, shutter speed at 150, and an D16 or 32 filter because you have a fixed aperture. Well guys, I hope that you liked this video, a bit more informative and basic, but as well super needed. We're doing many more videos with the Pocket 2 and other DJI devices, so stay tuned, leave the thumb please if you thought that this was helpful, and always remember to keep calm and talk UAV.